Rain hammered against the paper door. A shadow grew behind it, tall and still. Ren's fingers closed around an empty purse. No coin inside, not even a grain of rice. Genzo the rice merchant had given him 3 days to pay his debt. Tonight was the third night. Ren knew what happened to men who could not pay Genzo. Their tools sold, their doors sealed, their names spoken with pity in the market. But when the shadow finally slid the door open, it carried no rope, no ledger of debts. It carried a single lantern and a question that would undo everything Ren believed about being poor. Do you know why you are still hungry?
Genzo stepped over the threshold, and the rain stopped drumming on the roof. Or maybe Ren only stopped hearing it. The old merchant did not speak of the 3 days. He did not open his ledger book. He set his lantern on the floor between them and lowered himself down, joints creaking like old wood. "Sit," Genzo said. Ren sat, his empty purse still clenched in his fist. "I could take your tools tonight," Genzo said. "I could take this room. Men expect me to." He looked at Ren with eyes that held no anger, only a tired kind of patience. But tools can be replaced. A room can be rented again. What you are missing cannot be bought in the market, not for any price. Outside, rain still fell against the roof. Inside, the small room felt warmer than before, as if the lantern alone held back the whole storm. Ren's throat tightened. He told Genzo the truth, because there was nothing left to hide. His father lay sick 3 streets away, coughing blood into a cloth each night, and the medicine cost more than Ren earned in a season of copying scrolls. Every coin Ren touched vanished before sunset. Into rice, into fever medicine, into small comforts he told himself his father deserved. Now his father was worse, not better, and the little jar where Ren once kept coins for emergencies stood empty on the shelf, gathering dust instead of savings. Genzo listened without interrupting. When Ren finished, the old merchant reached into his sleeve and placed a single grain of rice on the floor between them. "Before you feed your father," Genzo said, "before you feed yourself, before you pay any debt, you set aside 1 grain for tomorrow." Not because 1 grain matters, because the hand that sets it aside becomes a hand that always sets something aside. He tapped the floor beside the grain. "Pay yourself first, Ren. Every single time money touches your palm, before the rice seller, before the medicine man, before me, a portion stops here first, even if it is only 1 grain." Ren stared at the single grain on the floor. It looked too small to matter. Yet Genzo's eyes told him it was not the size of the grain that mattered. It was the discipline behind it. Ren almost laughed. 1 grain would not save his father. But something in Genzo's face stopped him. The old merchant's gaze had drifted to the doorway, to the rain outside, to somewhere Ren could not follow. "I had a son," Genzo said quietly. "Clever, kind. He earned more silver in a year than I earned in 10. He never once set a grain aside, not one. When the flood came and the fields failed, he had nothing behind him to stand on. He borrowed from men crueler than I will ever be, and one winter morning, he simply did not come home." The lantern flame bent sideways in a draft, then steadied. "I do not teach you these habits because I have gold to spare, Ren. I teach you because I buried a lesson instead of a son, and I will not watch it happen twice. Genzo picked the grain back up and closed it in his palm. The second habit, he said. Rice left standing in a jar does nothing. Rice planted in a field becomes more rice by autumn. Whatever you set aside must work while you sleep. Lent carefully, planted wisely, never left idle out of fear. Idle gold is gold that dies slowly, Ren, the same as a field left unplanted. He opened his hand again, and where one grain had been, Ren could have sworn there were two. Probably it was only the lantern light. Probably.
Ren's composure finally broke. Weeks of fear came out of him at once. The shame of the debt, the terror of his father's cough, the nights he had lain awake counting coins that were never there to count. He admitted, voice cracking, that he had been too proud to ask Genzo for time, too afraid to admit how badly he had managed what little he had. Genzo did not comfort him with soft words. He simply waited, letting the rain fill the silence, until Ren's breathing slowed on its own. Now you know why you are still hungry, Genzo said gently. Not because you have too little, because until tonight, you protected nothing. Not your coins, not your fear, not your pride.
For the first time in weeks, Ren felt his shoulders drop, as if a weight he had carried without noticing had finally been set down. The third habit, Genzo said, rising slowly to his feet, is the one that protects the other two. Never risk what you cannot afford to lose twice. Not your last coin, not your father's medicine money, not your name in this town. He set the single grain of rice into Ren's open palm and closed his fingers around it. Start here. Tomorrow, one grain becomes two. In a year, you will not recognize the man who once stood shaking in this doorway. Ren closed his hand tightly around the grain, and for the first time in 3 days, he did not feel afraid.
In the Buddhist tradition, there is a word, Chisoku, to know what is enough. It does not mean wanting nothing. It means understanding that peace comes not from having more, but from managing well what you already hold in your hand. Today, many of us live the way Ren once did, earning, then spending it all before the month ends, mistaking movement for progress. The old habits Genzo taught are not about becoming wealthy overnight. They are about becoming a person who no longer fears an empty purse, one small, disciplined grain at a time.
Rain still falls sometimes against that same paper door. But now, when a shadow moves outside it, Ren does not reach for an empty purse. He reaches for the small jar by the window, heavier than it was last season. One grain heavier every single day. Tonight, ask yourself honestly, when money passes through your hands, what habit do you set aside first for the person you are trying to become?
Keep seeking, keep growing, and keep shining. Subscribe to join us for the next one.